Arthur Chichester, just because I had to think of a name. Well, I didn't have to. I just thought, think of a name. And a guy I knew was a taxi driver in Prague called Artur. And Chichester is a town not too far down the road from Brighton. So I amalgamated them and made Arthur Chichester, changed it from Artur, the Russian version, to Arthur. And there you go. And that's why. So, How many languages can you speak fluent? English. Just English. Nothing else fluently. So that's it. Belarus, Nico, 98G. Yep. There you go. Why not your real name on the book? Well, because, I don't know, before YouTube and stuff, do you just want to put yourself out there? Some people do. Some people want to be known and stuff, but fuck me. I mean, it's the last thing you want, isn't it? Just you just want to get on with your own life, don't you? Without anyone hassling you. And so I thought, go for a pseudonym. Also, I thought that the name Arthur Chichester, when you read it on the front of a book, if you were browsing Amazon, you'd make it look professional. And you think, oh, this is a book written by someone who knows how to write, as opposed to me, who wrote it on the toilet, in the factory where I was working. I used to sneak off, sit in the toilet, and then write the book. And when I finished the book, I had a big red ring around my arse from sitting on the toilet seat and writing the book. So so I thought Arthur Chichester would sound like a real professional author, and people would be like, oh yeah, I'll buy that. So that's the reason. Would I consider going to Vietnam and stuff? Consider yes. Right, okay, come on then. Let's do
Names have always carried more weight than they appear to. They are a form of currency, a way of borrowing authority, a code written into the surface of everyday life. When the YouTuber known as Bald and Bankrupt decided to publish a book, he found himself facing the problem that many accidental writers face: how to be taken seriously in a world that has turned seriousness into a marketplace. The solution he devised was deceptively simple. He borrowed a taxi driver's first name from Prague, appended a place name from southern England, and gave birth to Arthur Chichester. On paper, it looked solid, respectable, professional, a name that would sit comfortably on a spine in a bookshop or pop up in a Kindle search result with an air of dignity. The very sound of it seemed to carry the connotation of tradition, even though its origins were arbitrary. A Russian-inflected Artur was anglicized to Arthur. The town of Chichester was pulled into service as the surname. Out of fragments came an identity that could withstand the scrutiny of readers who would never meet the man but would inevitably judge the book by its cover. This decision is not unusual in the history of writing. Writers have long chosen pen names that obscure their origins, soften their strangeness, or elevate their reputations. But in Bald and Bankrupt's case, it reflects something deeper about the strange intersection of internet celebrity, authorship, and anonymity in the 21st century. He was not simply trying to conceal his identity. He was staging a performance, one in which the fiction of the serious author was necessary for his work to be consumed as credible, even if the work itself had been composed in the humblest of settings. The story of where the book was written adds to the irony. This was not the romantic image of an author laboring in a candlelit attic, nor the disciplined professional rising early each morning to produce his daily quota of words. It was the opposite: stolen moments in the toilets of a factory, scribbled passages that left a red ring around the arm from sitting too long on a hard seat. This image captures the gulf between the mythology of authorship and the reality of creative labor. The mythology insists on genius, on the aura of inspiration, on the solitary artist producing immortal prose. The reality, as Bald and Bankrupt made clear, was an act of smuggling, sneaking time away from wage labor, improvising a creative practice in a space designed for utility, not art. The book itself became a byproduct of industrial time, written in stolen intervals, its very existence dependent on the ability to vanish from the demands of the factory floor. The name, Arthur Chichester, therefore functioned as camouflage. It disguised the circumstances of the book's production. Where the truth might suggest amateurism, a factory worker scribbling in the bathroom, the name suggested professionalism, stability, authority. It was a mask worn to ensure that readers would approach the book without prejudice, so that they might see the work before dismissing the worker. This reliance on names is not a new phenomenon. In the 19th century, women writers often adopted male pseudonyms to escape the gendered biases of publishers and readers. In the 20th century, colonial subjects often published under anglicized names to ensure entry into Western markets. Names have always been tools of gatekeeping and performance. But in the age of YouTube, the problem takes on new dimensions. Bald and Bankrupt already had a persona, the eccentric traveler, bald-headed, self-deprecating, wandering through the crumbling remains of Soviet modernity. His audience knew him, or thought they did, as a character already. To publish a book under his YouTube moniker would have risked reducing it to a novelty, a cash-in, a vanity project. By creating Arthur Chichester, he gave himself the chance to step into a different role, one with gravitas. The pseudonym was not merely about hiding. It was about reinventing. The irony, of course, is that in the internet era, the mask is always thin. Fans quickly learn the origin of the name, just as fans of countless artists learn the real names behind their stage identities. Yet the revelation does not destroy the fiction. Instead, it becomes part of the story, another anecdote that adds texture to the mythology of the creator. In this way, the pseudonym becomes less about deception and more about theater. Bald and Bankrupt admitted openly that part of the calculation was appearance. If a book is to be taken seriously, it must look as though it has been written by someone serious. A name carries this burden. Arthur Chichester looks like the kind of name that belongs on a book cover. It suggests an author with a study, with leather-bound volumes on the shelves, with years of careful refinement behind each sentence. The reality, factory toilets, rushed scribbles, would not sell the book. And yet, this is the paradox. The words themselves, the narrative itself, emerged from that reality. They were not diminished by it. But the market, with its conventions and prejudices, demanded something else. The pseudonym, therefore, was less about hiding shame and more about fulfilling expectation. To publish as Bald and Bankrupt might have risked ridicule. To publish as Arthur Chichester invited credibility. This reveals something crucial about the machinery of cultural consumption. Audiences often claim to value authenticity, to seek the real voice of the author. But in practice, they rely on cues, names, covers, formatting that signal legitimacy. Authenticity must often be packaged in the costume of professionalism to be received as authentic. The pseudonym is the costume. There is also another layer. Bald and Bankrupt was candid that part of his reasoning lay in a reluctance to put his real name into circulation. For some, fame is the ultimate goal, the reward for creative work. For him, it was a liability. The last thing he wanted was to live a life where strangers knew his name, where the intimacy of authorship dissolved the privacy of everyday life. This tension between visibility and invisibility haunts many internet creators. The platforms encourage exposure, reward it, demand it. But exposure is also corrosive, stripping away privacy, creating a condition where every act is subject to commentary. To create Arthur Chichester was to erect a barrier, however flimsy, between the man and the public. It was a way of saying, you may read the words, you may engage with the ideas, but you may not enter fully into the private life of their creator. This speaks to a broader anxiety of the digital age. To publish under one's own name is to become searchable, traceable, permanently archived. A pseudonym allows for partial control, a buffer against the relentless memory of the internet. Even if the mask slips, it still provides a layer of separation, a reminder that the persona is not identical with the person.